It is the public defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated next to you for purposes of this recommending release to them. The state's recommendation is a $50,000 bond. Mr. Green?
The high bond amount request is based on the nature of the charges being armed robbery.
Eric?
Your Honor, I will note that in the complaint, Mr. Jackson is not alleged to be a person who used a firearm in this incident. That seems to be a co-defendant. Mr. Jackson's, obviously charged as a result of that. I will note that Mr. Jackson's 15 years old. He's a ninth grader at Tucson High School. He's in the last week of high school. And I'd ask, Your Honor, that you release him for pretrial services as is recommended by pretrial so that he may finish his ninth grade year of school. He's got a valid place to live. His grandmother was contacted by pretrial, and she's said that he can come home, that she's going to make sure that he gets to school and that he participates in his case. So to reiterate, Your Honor, Mr. Jackson's, while he's certainly charged with armed robbery, he's not one alleged to have used a gun or handled a gun or anything like that. And we've got a good place for him to go. He's got no criminal history, no record to speak of, Your Honor. And so for these reasons, I'd ask that you release him for pretrial.
Sir, I am going to hold you on a $25,000 bond that is going to be cash or secured. If you're able to post that bond, you can be released to pretrial services. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not allowed to possess any firearms or weapons. If you do post bond, you need to comply with any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. You are not to have any contact with the alleged victim in this case. You are not to return to the incident location. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you're excused.
Your Honor, what was the next court date?
Sorry, you're right. Thank you, Eric. The next court date for you, sir, is going to be June 3rd at 1:30. You are going to need to make sure you stay in contact with your attorney, whether you're in or out of custody. That preliminary hearing date may or may not occur. So that means in order to be responsible for all future court dates, you need to be in touch with your attorney. So June 3rd at 1:30.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Jose Alejandro.
Mr. Alicon, you are here this morning because you were charged with assault and trespass. I'm going to enter pleas of not guilty for you. You do have the right to remain silent. Sir, I am going to release you today. On release, you are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you're not to possess any firearms. Your next court date, sir, is going to be on June 21st at 8:30 in the morning. That hearing is going to occur in Justice Court in front of Judge Roberts. June 21st at 8:30 a.m. Do you understand?
Yes.
You're excused. Good morning, ma'am. Tell me your name.
Good morning, Sarah Ann Shimoleski.
Ms. Shadowski, you are here today because you've been charged with disorderly conduct, a domestic violence offense. I am going to enter not guilty pleas for you. You do have the right to remain silent. I am going to release you, ma'am, this morning. Your release conditions are not to consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You may not commit any further acts of domestic violence. You may not possess any firearms or weapons. And you're not to have any contact with the victim in this case, which means you cannot return to the victim's residence or workplace.
Yeah, one.
Your Honor, we would like to know if it's possible that we could set up something so that, Mr. Molesky here could go to the residence and retrieve personal items from the home.
Yes, ma'am. So I am going to put on the order that you may return with a police escort to pick up your belongings. That is going to be a one-time event. But you are not allowed to go back to the residence and you're not allowed to have contact with the victim. So you'll need to contact law enforcement so that you can return to get whatever things are at the home. Do you understand?
Yes.
Your next court date is going to be June 21st. And that's going to be at 10:30 in the morning in front of Judge Roberts. And that hearing will take place at Pima County Justice Court. All right, you are excused.
Thank you.
Good morning. Give me just 1 minute. Good morning. Tell me your name.
Given name is Morgan Eastbrook.
Ms. Seahart, you are here today because you've been charged with criminal trespass and obstruction and failing to provide a name to the officers when they had contact with you. I am going to enter not guilty pleas for you. You do have the right to remain silent. I am going to release you on your own signature. Your next court date is going to be June 26th at 10 o'clock in the morning. That is going to be in Pima County Justice Court. It will be at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sure who your judge is going to be, so you're going to have to check. It is an arraignment date that is scheduled for that time. Oh, sorry, it's Marana. That is why I don't have the name of the judge. So you're gonna need to report to Marana City Court June 26th at 10 o'clock in the morning. You're also not allowed to return to that IHOP, the incident location in this case. Do you understand, ma'am?
I've heard you.
All right, you're excused.
Yes. Could you give that to me?
Good morning. Tell me your name, please.
Monique McLaughlin.
I'm sorry, say that again, ma'am.
Monique McLaughlin.
Okay. Ms. Blackwood, you are here today, having been charged with criminal trespass. I'm going to enter a not guilty plea for you. You do have the right to remain silent. I am going to release you today. You are not to return to the incident location or have any contact with the victim that is at that location. Your next court date is going to be June 24th at 9:30 in the morning, and that will be at Tucson City Court. You'll be in front of Judge Hale.
And Your Honor, that was 9 AM?
Is this the initial trial?
9:30. It's going to be,
9:30.
it'll be your initial hearing, ma'am. It's a pretrial is what they call that, and that will be at Tucson City Court, June 24th at 9:30 in front of Judge Hale. All right, you're excused.
No,
Good morning, sir. Tell me your name.
Angel David Wells.
Mr. Cuevas, you are here today on a few justice court matters. There is one from May 21st of this year, and you have been charged with disorderly conduct, which is domestic violence offense, and also threats to cause injury as well as an assault. I'm going,
Injured? Is that what you said?
yes, that's what the charge said. Sorry, no injury, assault, no injury, but it is a domestic violence related offense. I am going to enter not guilty pleas for you. You do have the right to remain silent. I am going to hold you in this case, and I'm going to appoint the city public defender's office to represent you. I'm going to hold you on a cash bond of $2,500. You are not, if you're able to post that bond, possess or consume any alcohol or drugs, commit no further acts of domestic violence. You're to possess no firearms or weapons. You're to have no contact of any kind with the victim in this case. Means you are also not to return to the victim's residence or workplace. There were court dates that you had on June 12th. What I will tell you, sir, is if you are in custody still, your next hearing is going to be May 30th at 1:45. If you are able to post bond, your next hearing will be June 12th at 3 o'clock in front of Judge Blue in Tucson City Court. And that will be as to all of your matters, including the new one. Do you understand?
Your Honor, just as a point of clarification, so his court date is June 12th, 2024, and that was at what time?
It's at 3, but that's only if he posts bond, Eric. The next court date for him will be May 30th at 1:45. So if he remains in custody, the May 30th, 1:45 date. Did you need any other clarification?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. You're excused.
Okay, promise. Okay. Session, yep, you're done.
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
William Jonas.
Mr. Iconis, you are here today because you've been charged with criminal damage, some trespassing, resisting arrest, and drug paraphernalia. There's also some shoplifting and assault matters before us today. Additionally, you have multiple other city court matters that are pending at this time. Sir, I am going to enter. I'm going to enter not guilty pleas for you. I am going to hold you, sir, on a $2,500 bond, cash or secured. So you are going to remain in the Pima County Jail at this time unless you're able to post that $2,500 bond. You're not to possess or consume any alcoholic beverages. You are not to return to any incident locations or have any contact with any victims in these cases. Do you understand? Your next court date, sir, if you are in custody, is going to be May 30th at 1:45 in the afternoon. That will be in front of Judge Blue. If for any reason you are able to post the $2,500 bond, your next hearing will be June 6th at 10 a.m.
Johnson?
Good morning, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Morning, my number is Esther Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, today you are here because you have been charged with some drug paraphernalia and obstructing. I am going to dismiss these charges without prejudice against you today, and you will be released. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, have a good day. Bye.
Mr. Johnson? You ready now? You have a few. You said that you're okay? Yep, so go down these steps, sit there, I'll get you.
He, when he was starting out, drugs, his hand was saying, he was getting agitated.
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Christopher John Foster.
Mr. Foster, you're here
I
today.
believe.
You are here
I'm
today.
sorry. Go ahead, Judge.
You are here today because you've been charged with shoplifting. You also have another matter that's pending in Tucson City Court for criminal trespass and shoplifting as well. I am going to enter not guilty pleas for you. You do have the right to remain silent. I am going to release you, sir, today. You are not to go back to the incident locations where the shopliftings occurred in this case.
Ma'am, I can't remember, was this from recently or was it from a couple years ago? What was the date of the events? I don't remember. If this
Yeah,
was-
it was actually in
This is,
July of 2022 is when it was. And it was a quick trip.
for when,
It was a quick trip on
When-
River Road.
oh, okay, I'm familiar, yeah, I recall now.
Okay, so that's the case that you're being seen on today. Your next court hearing, sir, is going to be June 25th at 9:30 in the morning in front of Judge Mayhew, and you will be seen on both your city court matters at that time. If you do fail to appear at that court hearing, a warrant will be issued for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yeah, June 21st,
June 24th.
oh, 24th.
Oh, no,
all right,
sorry,
thank
you're
you.
right. It is June 25th at 9:30. June 25th.
Thank you,
at
Judge.
9:30. You're excused.
No. Defense next, put him back.
Good morning, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Mariana Valenzuela.
Ms. Valenzuela, you are here today because you have been charged with assault and disorderly conduct. These are domestic violence offenses. I'm going to enter not guilty pleas for you. You do have the right to remain silent. I am going to release you today. You are to possess no alcohol or illegal drugs, possess or consume, commit no further acts of domestic violence. You are not to possess any firearms or weapons, and you're not to have any unconsented contact with the victim in this case. Your next court date is going to be July 2nd at 1:30 in the afternoon, and that will be in Tucson City Court. That's going to be in front of Judge Mayhew. Oh, sorry, ma'am, hang on. It's actually gonna be Judge Millian, not Judge Mayhew. So it's still gonna be the same time, July 2nd at 1:30, but your judge will be Judge Millian.
Your Honor, my client would like to know if she's able to go back to the incident location or to the home to retrieve property.
Yes, I will put the order that you are allowed to return with law enforcement to retrieve any property that you have at that location. So you'll need to contact police and go with them to the location to collect your property. Do you understand? You're excused. I appointed the city guy and attorney on the record. I think I checked the box, so don't you notice that? Good morning, give me just 1 second, sir. Good morning, tell me your full name.
Balthazar makes room for them.
Sir, you are here today because you've been charged with aggravated assault and adult on a minor, criminal trespass in the third degree, and disorderly conduct. I'm going to enter not guilty pleas for you. You do have the right to remain silent. I am going to hold you today, sir, on a $2,500 cash or secured bond. If you're able to post that bond, you are not to possess or consume any alcohol, commit no further acts of domestic violence, possess no firearms, and you're not to have any contact with the victim in this case, which is the minor, the 5-year-old. You're not to return to the victim's residence or incident location, which is all the same. Your next court date, sir, is going to be May 31st at 1:45, and that's going to be in front of Judge Maldonado. If for any reason you were able to post the $2,500 bond, your hearing will be June 24th at 9:30. I am going to appoint the City Public Defender's Office to represent you. Do you understand your condition, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
You also have another city court matter that is going to be consolidated and heard at that time as well. You are excused. Thank you.
So we thought we should be able to put this in order.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, ma'am. Tell me your full name.
Brianna Lozanne Negotiate.
Ms. Lasana Nicochea, you are here this morning because you have been charged with possession of a dangerous drug for sale and a possession of a narcotic drug for sale. I'm going to enter pleas of not guilty for you. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the legal defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated with you for this hearing today. Pretrial Services is recommending against release. The state has requested a $50,000 bond, and if you're able to post that, release them to Pretrial Services. It does look like, ma'am, you do have a federal detainer hold on this. Mr. Green, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor, it's just, so the defendant has a history of probation violations and failing to appear. State believes she's a flight risk. It would note you noted she's already got a probation hold, and note that she has a history of drug sale convictions, at least one.
Eric?
Your Honor, I would ask that if the court is inclined to impose a bond, that you impose a nominal one, because the federal detainer, I understand what that means for my client here today. And so $50,000 is an excessive amount. I would ask that you consider something that is much more affordable, so that if the federal case does resolve, she will have the opportunity to potentially post that bond and be released to the community. So for that reason, Your Honor, I'd ask for a nominal bond in this case rather than the $50,000 that the state is asking for.
Ma'am, I am gonna hold you on a $10,000 bond that is cash or secured. If you are able to post that bond, you will be released to the custody of Pretrial Services. You must comply with any monitoring or treatment directed by Pretrial Services. If you post and get released, you're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not allowed to possess any firearms or weapons. Do you understand?
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Sure, you may want to ask the attorney seated next to you.
Okay, Your Honor, we're ready to proceed.
Did you have questions? I'm finished.
Your Honor, I need to get a court date.
Oh, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? Ma'am, because you're in custody, your next court date is gonna be June 3rd, 2024 at 1:30 in the afternoon. This is going to be a preliminary hearing. That hearing actually may or may not occur. However, there will be future court dates that you will need to be accountable for. So it's important that you make contact with the legal defender's office and have contact with your attorney. If you do not show up for future court dates, warrants can be issued for your arrest. All right, you're excused.
Spanish speaker next. Se sentará aquí en la silla, por favor.
Good morning, sir. Tell me your name.
Buenos días, señor. Dígame su nombre.
Valentina Hernández, Lucas.
Valentín Hernández Enríquez.
Sir, you are here today because you've been charged with a criminal damage, which is a felony domestic violence offense. I
Señor,
am,
¿está usted que le hicieron el cargo de daños ilegales?
I
Es
am,
un delito mayor de violencia doméstica.
I am going to enter a not guilty plea on your behalf. You have the right,
Voy a presentar una declaración de no culpable a su favor.
you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
Tiene el derecho de permanecer en silencio y todo lo que diga pudiera ser usado en su contra.
You have the right to an attorney. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated next to you this morning.
Tiene usted el derecho de tener un abogado. Le voy a nombrar un abogado de oficio esta mañana y también tiene al lado de usted un abogado de oficio.
The state is recommending a bond of $5,000. It looks like
El Estado está recomendando una fianza de $5,000.
pretrial services is not recommending ROR in this case. Mr. Green, do you want to be heard further?
Y los servicios precondenatorios no están recomendando presentarse bajo su propia palabra. Señor Green, ¿algo más que quiera decir?
You know, the state's only concern on this one is just that the defendant looks like he doesn't have a place to stay aside from the victim. So, if alternate housing can be found, the state would not object to release.
Su señoría, el acusado ahorita el único problema es que no tiene un lugar alternativo donde quedarse porque se estaba quedando con la víctima. Si él tiene un lugar donde quedarse, el Estado no tiene ninguna objeción de que sea liberado.
Mr. Colfred, do you want to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. I would actually ask that the court dismiss this charge at this point in time. And the reason for that is Mr. Hernandez Enriquez has been charged with criminal damage. Under 13-1602, criminal damage must be recklessly defacing or damaging property of another person. It's clear here that Mr. Hernandez Enriquez and the alleged victim in the case are married. The property in their home is owned jointly. It's not clear if there is separate property that he damaged that belonged to his wife and not to him. And so for that reason, Your Honor, if you damage your own property, if you destroy your own property, even if it's property that's held by the community, that's not criminal damage. It has to be property of another person. And because we don't have that here, I'd ask that you dismiss this charge, Your Honor, for lack of probable cause.
Ok, le pido por favor al tribunal que retire el cargo y la razón por la cual el cargo que se le hizo fue por daños ilegales. Según la sección 13-1602, daños ilegales tiene que ser la propiedad de otra persona. En este caso, las personas están casadas y no se sabe de seguro si esa propiedad era propiedad separada o propiedad mancomunada. De esa manera, daños ilegales, uno puede, el hecho de que si se destroza o se le hace daño a uno de la propiedad, no es razón para este cargo. Diríamos que retirarían el caso.
And Your Honor, I would just note that the interim complaint does say that some of the items belong to Myra. And I would also note that even if some of these items were community property, should they separate, then half would be hers and half would be his. So he's still breaking property that's not his, so.
Mr.
That's all,
Colfred,
Your Honor.
En la queja dice aquí que ciertos de los artículos que fueron dañados eran de Mayra. Igual, si la pareja se separa, la mitad de las pertenencias es mitad para el señor, mitad para ella, no necesariamente todo de él.
Mr. Colfred, I am going to deny your request to dismiss the charge.
Señor Colbert, voy a negar su petición de retirar el cargo.
Mr. Hernandez, do you have an alternative place to reside if you are
Señor
released?
Hernández, ¿tiene usted un lugar alterno donde vivir si es liberado?
Sí, tengo una hermana, tengo el familia.
I have a sister.
And,
Tengo 3 hermanos.
I have 3 sisters.
and do they live here or somewhere local?
viven aquí o en un lugar local,
cerquita de la casa de Tucson.
close to the house in Tucson.
All right, sir. I am going to release you to the custody of pretrial services.
Muy bien, señor, lo voy a liberar bajo los servicios precondenatorios.
You are not to consume or possess alcohol or illegal drugs.
No debe consumir ni poseer alcohol ni drogas ilegales.
You are not to possess any firearms or weapons.
No deberá poseer ninguna armas de fuego ni armas.
You are not to commit any further acts of domestic violence.
Ni podrá usted cometer más actos de violencia doméstica.
And you are not to have any contact with Myra Aros.
Y no deberá tener ningún tipo de contacto con Mayra Aros.
At this time, sir, you are not allowed to return to that residence or her workplace if she works.
Señor, en este momento no se le permitirá a usted ir a ese lugar de trabajo ni a su residencia.
No contact, sir, means no telephone contact, no texting, no communication of any kind with her at this time.
Y no tener contacto significa no tener contacto por teléfono, por texto o ningún otro tipo.
I am going to allow you to return one time to the residence with a police escort to pick up any belongings that you may need.
Le voy a permitir a usted regresar en una ocasión escoltado por las autoridades para recoger usted cualquier pertenencia que usted necesite.
Your next court date, sir, is a preliminary hearing on June 11th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That hearing may or may not occur, sir.
Su próxima comparecencia, señor, es una audiencia preliminar el 11 de junio a la 1:30. Esa audiencia podrá suceder o no,
But it is very important that you make contact with your attorney because you need to appear at any future court dates that are set.
pero es muy importante que mantenga usted contacto con su abogado porque es muy importante que comparezca usted a cualquier comparecencia que se programe.
If you fail to appear for any future court dates, a warrant may be issued for your arrest.
Y si no se presenta usted para alguna comparecencia futuro, podrá haber una orden de aprehensión.
Do you understand, sir?
¿Entiende, señor?
Sí, está bien.
Yes, very well.
All right, so you'll need to pick a location to reside, one of your sisters, somewhere other than the house where the victim will be staying. And if you-
Tendrá que escoger dónde vivir con alguna de sus hermanas, aparte de la residencia de la víctima.
All right, sir, you're excused.
Muy bien, señor, se puede retirar. Your Honor, maybe you should be excused.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
day.
you. You too, thank you.
Yes.
The bacalao? Yes, sir. Sir, red chair. Everybody else have a seat, please. Nice to meet you.
Your Honor, if we can have a moment so I can speak with my client
Okay.
briefly. Thank you. Your Honor, I apologize for the delay.
No problem, thank you. Good morning, sir. Tell me your name.
Good morning, Your Honor. Aldo Bacchio.
So you are here today because you've been charged with aggravated assault. It is a domestic violence offense. I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. You have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I am appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated next to you for this hearing. Pretrial Services is recommending release to their agency. The state is requesting a $25,000 bond and release to pretrial services if you're able to post that. Mr. Green, do you want to be heard further?
So the state's just concerned about the nature of the charges being that he drove his vehicle at the victim, and this is also domestic violence because the victim was his son.
I think it was a stepson, Mr. Colesred.
Yes, Your Honor, and a couple things that are noted in the complaint. Mr. Bacchio had attempted to serve what is soon to be his ex-wife, or is his ex-wife, with annulment paperwork that had been filed out of Georgia. She had refused service. She had, upon information and belief, actually invited him to come pick up his stuff because they were separating. The alleged victim in this case is his stepson, not his actual son, and they had been separated clearly for some time. Mr. Bacchio has a home in Georgia. He starts a new job.
This coming Tuesday, Your Honor.
Okay, so he starts a new job in Georgia. I ask, Your Honor, that you do release him to pretrial services. He has his mother is in Georgia. She is an officer of the court there, and had helped him file the annulment paperwork. I would ask that you release him to pretrial services so he can return to his own home in Georgia, where he will not be obviously any threat to the alleged victim in this case. And he can continue to participate in his case at home in Georgia through Microsoft Teams or through the telephone if the court here in Pima County so allows him to.
Sir, I am going to release you to the custody of pretrial services. You are going to need to maintain contact with that agency and participate in any monitoring or treatment as they direct. I am going to allow you to reside in Georgia so that you can go back there and keep your job. You are not allowed to possess any firearms or weapons. You are not to have any contact with the victim in this case. Do not return to that residence. Do not return to their workplaces. Your next court date, sir, is going to be June 11th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is a preliminary hearing. That hearing may or may not occur, so it is really important that you maintain contact with your attorney so they can advise you of all future court dates, which you will be held accountable for. If you fail to appear for any future court dates, a warrant may issue for your arrest. Do you understand, sir?
That's very generous, Your Honor. Thank you.
You will need to contact pretrial services today when you're released and make sure that you have information provided to them regarding your out-of-state residence, and make sure that you contact your attorney as well for any future court appearances. There will be some appearances where you will need to be here in person. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
They're all the way out.
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Good morning. Ruben Jesus Figueroa.
Mr. Ferreira, you are here today because you've been charged with narcotic drug possession or use. dangerous drug possession or use, and also drug paraphernalia. I am going to enter not guilty pleas for you. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I am appointing the public defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated with you today for purposes of this hearing. Pretrial Services is recommending release on this matter. The state is also recommending release to pretrial services. That is my inclination. Does anyone want to be heard further?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Green?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Sir, as part of your release conditions, you are going to need to abide by any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. Your next court date is going to be June 11th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is a preliminary hearing. That hearing may or may not occur, so it is important that you maintain contact with your attorney at the public defender's office. There will be future court dates, and if you fail to appear, a warrant may be issued for your arrest. Sir, you are also not to possess any firearms or weapons. Do you understand all of those conditions?
Yes, Your Honor.
Pretrial Services is also recommending that you participate in their enhanced supervision program, so I'm going to order that as well. That is all, sir. You may be excused.
Stop.
Good morning, sir. Tell me your full name.
It was Harold Goff, excuse me.
Mr. Goff, you are here today because you've been charged with possession of narcotic drugs and also with drug paraphernalia. I am going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. You have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated with you for purposes of this hearing today. Pretrial Services is recommending release to their agency. The state is recommending I don't know if it's supposed to be a $25,000 or $2,500 bond with release to
Sorry,
pretrial.
it should have been 25,000, sorry.
Okay. Mr. Green, do you want to be heard further?
The state's supposed to concern about it being a flight risk due to the active warrants.
So, sir, I will tell you, and although you're not being seen on those today, you do have justice court warrants out of Oracle from January 8th of 2024. They're not matters that we're addressing here today, but I did want you to know that they do exist, and you might want to try to get those taken care of as well. I don't know if you know their existence or not, but they are there. So that's something you might want to get a hold of Oracle Justice Court and get those matters resolved. Mr. Colfred, do you want to be heard? I am inclined to release him to pretrial services.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd ask that you release him to pretrial services. I think that's appropriate here.
Sir, that is what I'm going to do. You're going to be released to the custody of pretrial services. You're to possess and consume no alcohol or illegal drugs. You're to participate in any monitoring or treatment as they direct you to. You are going to not be allowed to possess any firearms or weapons. Your next court date, sir, is going to be June 11th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is a preliminary hearing. That date may or may not occur, so it is important that you maintain contact with your public defender. They will let you know of all future court dates that you will be held accountable for. If you fail to appear for those future court dates, sir, a warrant may be issued for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am, thank you very much.
All right, you're excused.
Thank you very much.
morning, tell me your full name.
Philip Jonathan Green.
Mr. Green, you were here today because, you had been charged with possession of drug paraphernalia, narcotics, drugs, and criminal trespass. Mr. Green, I do see that the state intends to dismiss these charges without prejudice this morning, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, sir, so the state is dismissing these charges against you at this time, so you are going to be released. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. Or ma'am, sorry.
And that's as to any of those
Sorry.
charges. It's okay. All right, you're excused.
Oh, answer for defense on the voice.
Give me just 1 minute. Good morning, tell me your full name.
Shakira Renee Green.
Ms. Green, you are here today because you have been charged with possession or use of a narcotic drug, possession or use of a narcotic drug for sale, and also misconduct involving weapons. I am going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. You have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I am appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated next to you for purposes of this hearing. Pretrial Services is recommending release on this matter. The state is requesting release to pretrial services on this case. Did you wish to be heard any further, Mr. Green?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Colesred?
Yes, Your Honor, I would ask that you release Ms. Green, on her own recognizance as pretrial services is recommended here. I think that's a perfectly valid and a perfectly safe thing for the court to do in this case, given that she has no criminal history, no failures to appear, anything like that. And so I don't think that bogging down pretrial services with another person who could just be ordered to appear on her own recognizance to court, is worth the time and the effort on their part. So, Your Honor, I'd ask that you order her released ROR so she may participate on her own without the need for supervision.
Ma'am, I am going to release you to the custody of pretrial services. I do believe that release and supervision is more appropriate in this case in light of the charges. You will need to participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services. You are not to consume or possess any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons. Your next court date is going to be June 11th at 1:30 in the afternoon. This is what's called a preliminary hearing. That hearing may or may not occur, but there will be future court dates that you will be responsible for attending. You need to maintain contact with your public defender so that they can provide you with those dates. If you fail to appear for any future court dates, ma'am, a warrant may be issued for your arrest. Do you understand?
Thanks.
All right, you're excused. And we have a victim on the next one on Teams, I do believe. Do you have a name, Maudie?
Yes, her name is Amy Rain. She might have to unmute herself if she's the one that's muted earlier.
Good morning, tell me your full name.
Captain Grove.
Mr. Grove, you are here today because you have been charged with an aggravated assault strangulation charge. This is a domestic violence offense. I am going to enter a not guilty plea on your behalf. You have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I am appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated next to you for this hearing. Pretrial services is recommending that you be released to their supervision. We do have the victim on the phone or on Teams, and I believe she wants to be heard. So, Ms. Ramboy, if you want to unmute at this time and tell me what you would like me to know for this case.
Hello?
Hi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. What would you like me to know, ma'am?
I just want to know if you are aware of everything that happened.
So, ma'am, I do have information about the offenses in this particular case. Law enforcement officers have told us about why it is that we are here today and given us some information about the charges. So I do have that information.
Okay.
So, ma'am, this hearing is to determine conditions of release. And so whether or not Mr. Grove is going to be released from jail today, and then any conditions that I may impose. I do see that you gave a statement to pretrial services in this case, and you did have some concerns that you do intend to remain at the residence and that you do not want him returning. Is that still what you wish to see?
Yes, I am afraid that he will come back anyway, because yesterday, before the police arrived, he broke every zip tie, and we always had things together to try to get in that property.
Okay, is there anything else with respect to the conditions that you would like me to know?
Last night I took a shower and I discovered him bleeding on my breath.
Okay. Anything else, ma'am?
I just don't trust that he will come back and try to do something.
Okay. I appreciate you appearing today and providing the input to the court. If you want to go ahead and put yourself back on mute, I'm going to listen to the lawyer's recommendations as well. Okay, ma'am?
Okay.
Mr. Green?
Thanks, Your Honor. The state's recommending a $50,000 bond plus pretrial services if released. You already heard the victim's safety concerns, so I won't rehash those, but just also pointing out the nature of the offense being strangulation.
Mr. Colter?
Your Honor, I would ask that you follow the recommendation of pretrial services. Mr. Grove has third-party housing in the form of his father. That's a stable address. His father's indicated that he can take third-party custody, make sure that Mr. Grove shows up to his court dates. And, he's going to be staying away from the alleged victim, the alleged incident location in this case. I'll note, Your Honor, Mr. Grove has no criminal history. He's got no misdemeanor history. He has no history of prior TV allegations or anything of that nature. This incident is alleged to have occurred a week ago. The alleged victim here had apparently called police about something separate that had occurred, according to the complaint, a day before the police had arrived. There's no mention of a strangulation or anything regarding a blanket or a comforter until the police arrived there. There's nothing, the police didn't know about that until they got there. There wasn't something that was shared with them on the phone. We're obviously not here to hash out or fight the case, but I will note, Your Honor, that again, Mr. Grove has no prior history of this. And while I can appreciate the alleged victim's concerns about safety, I think that allowing Mr. Grove to reside with his father and participate with his case from his father's home under the supervision of pretrial services is more than sufficient to ensure the victim's safety in this case and his participation.
I'm also going to note that we did receive a Form 4C that was completed in this case, and I am taking that into consideration with respect to the conditions. Sir, I am going to impose a $10,000 cash or secured bond at this time. If you do post that bond, You are going to be released to the custody of pretrial services. You're gonna need to be monitored or treatment, or you're going to need to be monitored by pretrial services, and you'll need to participate in any treatment or requests that they have of you. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You are not to possess any firearms or weapons. You are to commit no acts of domestic violence. You're not to have any contact with the victim in this case. You are not to go to her home or her work. And you do have, it sounds like, a residence at a different location, so there's no reason for you to be back there. No contact, sir, means absolutely no contact. Do not drive by her home, do not text her, do not post on social media. It is as if she does not exist in your world. Do you understand those conditions, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your next court date is going to be June 3rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That hearing is a preliminary hearing. Those hearings may or may not occur, so it is important that you maintain contact with your attorney so that you are responsible for any future court dates. If you fail to appear for any future court dates, a warrant may be issued for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, that's all I have, your excuse. And thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I just want to address some of my concerns before I hang up.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Did you have something else to say?
Yes, I heard that you guys have criminal history or anything, but he has told himself he was under police investigation because of his ex-fiance, because he hit her in the head and then 2 days later she died. And he also told me that those police still have his old phone. And he told me that he's been in jail before and that his father has been taken up in jail.
Okay, so that's not information that we have available at this time. But as I indicated, ma'am, he is gonna be held on a $10,000 bond. If he's able to post that bond, he will be released, but he is not to have any contact with you of any kind. Okay?
What about his belongings that he has at my house?
I'm not in,
Bag, ring.
so. Monty,
Your Honor, if I may,
go ahead, Mr. Coltrane.
it sounds like Mr. Grove's father is in town, and seeing as the court has ordered him held on a bond, it might be possible for Mr. Grove's father to go over with the, police escort to pick up whatever items that Mr. Grove's are left at the house. If that's something that the court is willing to entertain, that keeps Justin here away from the home and allows for that property to get transferred over.
That is gonna be my inclination, so, Monty, do you mind adding the may return one time with police contact? And then, sir, can I get your father's name so that we have that name on the order?
Yes, my father's name is Edward Grove.
Okay. Monty, would you put that name? Yes. Thank you so much. All right, so we are going to allow a one-time return with police escort to pick up your belongings, and we will put in the order that it will be your father, Edward Grove. Ma'am, do you understand that that's what will be happening? The police will be contacting you. Mr. Grove, the father will be the person, and he can come collect those items.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, that's all for today.
Thank you.
Sir, you are excused.
Okay.
Good morning, tell me your full name.
Paul L.
Mr. Howard, you were here this morning on charges relating to possession or use of a narcotic drug, possession or use of a narcotic drug for sale, misconduct involving weapons, and prohibited possessor. I'm going to enter pleas of not guilty for you. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I am appointing the legal defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated next to you for purposes of this hearing today. Pretrial Services has recommended release to their agency. The state is requesting a $75,000 bond in this matter. Mr. Green.
Thanks, John. I was a little confused with the pretrial services report because it says there's no holds, yet there's an active probation violation warrant out of Maricopa County. So I think there's probably a hold for that. We'll just note that concerning him having possession of a weapon, with it looks like he's got aggravated assault, 2 aggravated assault convictions, and some rather violent past. So that's the reason for the state's recommendation, Your Honor.
Mr. Colesred.
Your Honor, I'd ask that you follow the recommendation of pretrial services and release Mr. Howard to their supervision, enhanced if necessary. He's got a home in Maricopa County. He can go back and live there and be, away from the co-defendant. In this case, on that note, I will say that according to the complaint, it looks like the weapon and the alleged drugs in this case were found in a woman's purse. And that was in the possession of his co-defendant. I'd ask that you take that into account, that there's some dispute as to the ownership of, or the possession of this weapon or the drugs in this case. And you release Mr. Howard to pretrial services so that he can participate in his defense from his home in Maricopa County in whatever manner that the court would order, rather than here in jail.
Sir, I am going to impose a $10,000 cash or secured bond on this case. It does appear that you're on probation in Maricopa County currently. If you are able to post that bond, you will be released to the custody of pretrial services on this matter. You are to participate as directed in any monitoring or treatment as pretrial services requests. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons. Your next court date, sir, is going to be June 3rd at 1:30. That is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but it is very important that you appear for all future court dates. That means you must be in contact with the legal defender that is appointed to represent you, so you can know what those future dates are if it's not that preliminary hearing date. If you do not appear for future court dates in this case, a warrant may be issued for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's all, you may be excused.
So I'm gonna change, the co-defendant, court date, because now that he's being held, it looks like he'll have it in custody.
What do you mean?
So because you're holding Mr. Green on a bond, you released, you're holding Mr. Howard on a bond, I had to change, the defendant Green's date to an in custody date because you released him to pretrial services.
But it's just the PH date, right?
It's just a PhD.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
yeah. So I'm just letting you know that I gotta change it.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, tell me your name.
Good morning, Eric Turner.
Mr. Koenig, you're here this morning charged with possession of a dangerous drug, possession of a narcotic drug for sale, possession of a firearm by a prohibited possessor, and possession of a firearm during a drug offense. It does appear that there was a charge of that firearm being stolen or possession of a stolen firearm. I am going to enter pleas of not guilty on your behalf. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I am appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have an attorney seated next to you for this hearing. Pretrial Services is recommending released to their agency. The state is recommending a $25,000 bond. Mr. Green.
Thanks, Sean. We're just done. It looks like the defendant just finished a prison sentence in December of last year for drug sales. Now he has another drug sales case. So state's requesting $25,000 bond.
Mr. Coltrane.
Your Honor, I urge you to follow the recommendation of pretrial services here, or in the alternative, and place a nominal bond, $25,000, likely put that out of the financial means of Mr. Koenig here. I will note that under the complaint, it seems as though Mr. Koenig was not the owner or the driver of the vehicle in question. He was a passenger. And the alleged drugs were found in a purse. It looks like in the back, the officers had said within reach, but I would imagine that the purse here is not Mr. Koenig's. As for the firearm, again, I note that, Your Honor, this is somebody else's vehicle. We have no knowledge as to whether or not Mr. Koenig knew that there's a gun, or that it had been his or get anything to do with it. So that being the case, Your Honor, I'd ask that you follow the recommendation here offered by pretrial services and release them to their custody.
Sir, I am going to impose a bond in the amount of $5,000. That is going to be cash or secured. If you post that bond, you are going to be released to the custody of pretrial services. You're to participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by them. You're to possess or consume no alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons. Your next court date is going to be June 3rd at 1:30. That is what's called a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur. However, you will be responsible for any future court dates and attending those. You need to maintain contact with your attorney so that you get those future court dates. If you fail to appear for those court dates, warrants may be issued for your arrest. Do you understand? You may be excused.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in there. All you're gonna do is basically when you get a petition to revoke and oh, you're out of.
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
My name is Jesus Ignacio Mejia, ma'am.
Sir, you're here today on several matters. We do have a robbery charge as one of the matters. An armed robbery. And another armed robbery with a deadly weapon, and also a failure to appear on some misdemeanor matters. I do have other matters in Tucson City Court, sir, that we're gonna be talking about today. And also a petition to revoke probation that we'll be dealing with. There is a warrant out of justice court as well. So, sir, I'm going to enter not guilty pleas for you on the new charges. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated next to you for this hearing. Pretrial services is not recommending release in this case. It does look like the state is requesting $150,000 bond. Mr. Green?
Thanks, Your Honor. The state's concerned about the safety of the community given the armed robbery allegation, and we also believe the defendant's a flight risk, just given all these open warrants and failure to appear for court.
Mr. Coltrane?
Your Honor, the information I have is there's only one armed robbery charge. I only have a complaint for one count from one date dated May 21st, 2024. I'll note that the pretrial services recommendation also only notes one charge one count of armed robbery. And while I see that there is a failure to appear or shoplifting charge from last year, I'm only looking at one armed robbery charge. $150,000 is frankly an absurdly high number given the circumstances of this case. It's the officers alleged that Mr. Mejia had said that he was taking food because he was hungry and he didn't have anything. It's $150,000 is frankly out of the means of people who may have a home, may have a place to stay, may have a job, and may have money. Mr. Mejia, it would appear, has none of those things. And so, Your Honor, I would ask that if you're going to place a bond, you would place a nominal one that he has the opportunity of possibly paying to get out of jail. It's clear that Mr. Mejia is interested in treatment. I think that's something that may be in his future. And given that, Your Honor, in placing the high bond that the state is asking for would be an enormous bar for whatever trial court gets this case when they're trying to evaluate whether or not Mr. Mejia should be released so that he can get treatment. And so for these reasons, Your Honor, I'd ask that you place a nominal bond so that he has the opportunity to get the treatment if that's something that is in his future.
Sir, I am going to impose a bond of $2,500. It will be cash or secured. If you post that bond, you will be released to pretrial services. You must participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by them. You're to possess or consume no alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons. Do not go back to the incident location. Do not have any contact with the alleged victim. Do not return to the incident location for the armed robbery. And Mr. Coulter, that is correct. It's just the one armed robbery that we have for the new charges today. The court date, your next court date on this felony matter, sir, is June 3rd at 1:30. That matter is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but it is very important that you maintain contact with your attorney so that you appear at any future court dates. Failure to appear at any future court dates could result in a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand those conditions, sir, for these felony charges?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
All right,
Your Honor, do we have a misdemeanor court date given that there's one mentioned?
I am getting to that, thank you. All right, sir, as to your misdemeanor warrant out of justice courts, I am going to impose a $100 bond on that case, cash or secured. Your next court date is going to be May 23rd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in front of Judge Cornejo. I am going to appoint an attorney for you in that matter. So I am going to appoint Doug Taylor to represent you. And that will be for the misdemeanor matter. And Mr. Colesworth, I gave you that court date, right, May 23rd at 1?
Was it 1 or 1:30?
It's actually 1 o'clock, and that's gonna be in front of,
1.
yeah, Judge Cornejo.
Understood.
And then we have some city court matters, sir. And there are multiple city court cases. The first matter we're gonna deal with is a petition to revoke. Sir, and that petition says that on December 28th, 2022, You were adjudicated guilty of a DV, DOC, and 2 counts of shoplifting. You were placed on probation for a period of 36 months. Written conditions of probation were imposed, and a copy of those written conditions were provided to you, and they were signed. The state's alleging that you violated these conditions of probation because there is reasonable cause to believe that you violated the terms of your probation and that you also failed to pay restitution. I'm going to enter denials on your behalf for purposes of that petition to revoke. So we're gonna ignore that date. Hold on, so I'm gonna get you your court date. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, sir, your next court date for your city court matters is going to be June 12th at 1:30 in the afternoon, and that will be in front of Judge Millian. And that will resolve your petition to revoke as well as the other 2 pending city court matters. Mr. Colesrud, did you need me to repeat any other dates?
No, Your Honor, I have, June 3rd, 2024 for the felony matter. I have May 23rd, 2024 at 1 o'clock for the justice court matter, and then June 12th at 1:30 for the city court.
That is correct, and I am going to appoint the city public defender to represent you, Mr. Mejia, on your city court matters. All right, you're excused. Good morning, sir. Tell me your full name. You're muted on that end, Mr. Colesrud.
My apologies. My name is Sean Vizioka, Your Honor.
Sir, you are here today because you have been charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault on a peace officer and then also a robbery charge. So there are 2 separate interims that we received today, 2 separate felony matters. I am going to enter pleas of not guilty for you on those charges. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have an attorney seated next to you for purposes of this hearing. Pretrial Services is recommending release to them on these matters. The state is recommending a $10,000 bond on one matter and $1,000 on the other. Mr. Green.
Thanks, Your Honor. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna change the recommendation to recommend release to supervision of pretrial services. I didn't have the interim complaint on the robbery at the time I made that, and after reviewing it, I think a release is appropriate.
All right, Mr. Colford, my inclination is to release the pretrial services. Do you have anything that you would like to add?
No objection to that, Your Honor.
All right, sir, I am going to release you to the custody of pretrial services. You will need to participate in any treatment as directed by them. They're going to monitor you on this case. You're to possess no alcohol or illegal drugs, possess no firearms or weapons. Your next court date, sir, is going to be June 11th at 1:30. That court date is what's called a preliminary hearing. That date may or may not occur. However, there will be future court dates that you will be responsible for attending. It's important that you maintain contact with your attorney to get all future court dates. If you do not appear for those court dates, warrants may be issued for your arrest. You're also not to have any contact with the victims in this case. Do you understand all of those conditions?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, sir, you are excused.
Real quick, Your Honor, was that two public defenders or legal defenders for the counsel?
Public defender.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Yes.
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Jose Maria Nunez.
Sir, you were here today because you were charged with armed robbery and aggravated assault. I am going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I am appointing the legal defender's office to represent you. Pretrial services, as soon as I can get back there, is recommending against release. The state is requesting $100,000 bond. Mr. Green?
Yes, sir, I'm just, serious concerns about the community safety, given the armed robbery allegation, and also concerned about, being a flight risk, given he has active, warrant out of California.
Mr. Colfred?
Your Honor, I'd ask that you release Mr. Nunez to pretrial services. He's got a third-party address he can go to, someone who can make sure that he can get to and from his court hearings. I understand the state's concern about the, the danger to the community here, though I would note that it seems like this was a dispute between two people. It's the court will likely order Mr. Nunez to have no contact with the victim, and I'm sure that he will have no problem doing so. So I ask that you release him to pretrial services, or in the alternative, order a nominal bond, something that he might have the opportunity to afford and participate in his case from outside.
Mr. Nunez, I am going to impose a $10,000 cash or secured bond on this case. If you're able to post that bond, you'll be released to pretrial services. You're going to need to participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by them. You're not to possess any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons. You are not to have any contact with the victims in this case. You are not to return to the incident location. Your next court date, sir, is going to be June 3rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That hearing is what's called a preliminary hearing. That hearing may or may not occur, however, you will be responsible for any future court dates. It's important that you maintain contact with your attorney to get those future dates, or a warrant may be issued for your arrest. Do you understand, sir?
Is Mr. Nunez dismissed, Your Honor? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Yes.
Thank you.
You want to answer? Scott, right here in prediction. Ms. Dean Walker. Yep.
Good morning, sir. Tell me your full name.
And Gustad, Joy,
Sir, you were here today on a couple of matters. The first one is a felony aggravated assault charge. The other one is a disorderly conduct charge from South Tucson Police Department. I am going to enter not guilty pleas for you. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you in the felony matter. You do have counsel seated next to you for purposes of this hearing. Pretrial Services is recommending against release in this case. The state is recommending $100,000 bond. Mr. Green.
Thanks, Your Honor. We just note the defendant's on parole for a robbery conviction. He has an aggravated assault charge. He also has an aggravated assault conviction from 2016. The state's also just concerned about, it looks like the defendant's in flight risk. He's got a history of violating parole. Thank you.
Mr. Coltrane.
Your Honor, I ask that you place a nominal bond. It would seem that, Mr. Scott has the Department of Corrections hold. Given that, I'd ask that you, place, like I said, a nominal bond so that he doesn't lose his back time here.
Sir, I am going to impose a $50,000 cash or secured bond on this case. If you are able to post that bond, you will be released to the custody of pretrial services. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs if you're released. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons. You must participate in any treatment or services directed by pretrial services if you are able to be released. Your next court date is going to be June 3rd at 1:30 in the afternoon on the felony matter. This is what's called a preliminary hearing. That hearing may or may not occur, sir, so it's important that you maintain contact with the public defender so that you get any future court dates. You will be responsible to appear for any future dates in this case. If you fail to appear, a warrant may be issued for your arrest. We're going to talk about the South Tucson case next. So that's all for this one. As to the South Tucson matter, I am going to release you as to that matter. The next court date on that one, because you are in custody still on the felony matters and you have a hold, is going to be May 23rd at 10 o'clock in the morning. If for any reason, sir, you were to bond out, your court date would need to be June 4th at 10. And that is going to be at South Tucson City Court.
Okay.
That's all, sir. You're excused.
So,
We don't have any yet. Yeah, okay. It's looking like.
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Greg Savian,
Mr. Saviano, you are here on charges relating to aggravated assault and prohibited possessor. It does appear there is a warrant for you on this. I am going to enter not guilty pleas for you. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated next to you for purposes of this hearing. Pretrial Services is recommending against release in this case. It does appear that you have a probation matter that you're going to be held on as well in a 2022 Superior Court case. The state is recommending a $50,000 bond. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Your Honor. And it looks like the JP warrant, it looks like the state actually asked for $50,000. The pretrial service report references half a million. I'm not sure if that's right, but anyway, we note that the defendant has quite a felony history. It looks like he's at a flight risk from a lot of probation violations in this court. So, and then given the nature of the charges, the state's asking for a $50,000 bond.
Mr. Green, I will tell you that the warrant does say 500,000.
Well, if that's what the warrant says now, then I'll recommend $500,000 for bond.
Okay, Mr. Colesworth?
Your Honor, I'd ask that you would place some, a nominal bond here. You initially said $50,000. That's a whole heck of a lot better than $500,000. I understand Mr. Sevillano's got a probation hold against him here. Be that as it may, if he's able to, clear up that matter, I'd ask that, you consider the fact that, he's got a child that was recently just born. And so 2 days ago, and so he would very much like the opportunity to get out and provide a better living situation for his son. Like I said, I understand there's a probation hold here, but I think $50,000 is, a much more fair number than the $500,000 that the state requested.
So, sir, I am gonna impose a $100,000 cash or secured bond in this matter. If you are able to post that bond, you will be released to the custody of pretrial services. Your order to participate in any treatment or monitoring is directed by them. You're to possess no firearms or weapons. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to have any contact with the alleged victims in this case, and you're not to return to the incident location. Your next court date, sir, is going to be June 3rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is a preliminary hearing. That matter may or may not occur at that time, but you will be responsible for any future court dates on this case. Means you need to maintain contact with the public defender's office so that you can get those future court dates. Failing to appear for any future court dates may result in a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand, sir? Sir, do you understand? Okay. You can talk to your attorney. You're excused.
Here you go. This is yours.
Yeah.
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Manuel.
Mr. Young, you are here on a few matters today. The first one is a felony involving a theft of means of transportation and a criminal damage. I am going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. I'm appointing the legal defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated next to you for purposes of this hearing today. Pretrial Services is recommending against release. The state has recommended a $30,000 bond. Mr. Green.
So the state's main concern is that the defendant appears to be a flight risk. So he's got one felony case in warrant status, and I believe I counted about 7 misdemeanor cases in warrant status.
Mr. Colesworth?
Your Honor, I recognize the charges against Mr. Young here. I would ask that, if the court is looking to place a bond, that, you do so in an amount that Mr. Young might be able to afford. I know he's working as a cook here, and, you know, he very much like the opportunity to participate in this case from the outside rather than in jail. You know, the amount that is requested by the state here, $30,000, is a large amount of money, for someone of limited means. And so I would ask the judge to take that into account, when you, arrive on a number here in this case.
All right, sir, I am gonna hold you on a $5,000 cash or secured bond. If you're able to post that bond, you will be released to the custody of pretrial services. You need to participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by them. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons. You're not to have any contact with the alleged victims in this case, and you're not to return to the incident locations. Your next court date for this felony matter, sir, is going to be June 3rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That is what's called a preliminary hearing. That date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for attending any future court dates. That means you need to make sure you stay in contact with your attorney so that you can appear at all future court dates. If you fail to appear, a warrant may issue for your arrest. And I'm going to go through the misdemeanor charges with you in a minute. Do you understand those conditions?
Yes.
All right, and then you have a warrant out of justice court for the shoplifting and also failures to appear. I am going to impose a $100 cash or secured bond on that matter. I am going to appoint Adam Waters to represent you. Your next court date in that matter, sir, is May 23rd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's going to be in front of Judge Cornejo. If you are able to post the bond on this case and you are released, your arraignment on the justice court matter will be June 21st at 8:30 in front of Judge Roberts. Do you understand those conditions, sir?
Yes.
All right, and then finally, you have multiple city court matters. I am going to also impose a $100 cash or secured bond on those. Same conditions, not possessing or consuming any alcohol or illegal drugs, possess no firearms or weapons. I am going to appoint the city public defender's office to represent you for these matters. If you remain in custody, sir, your hearing dates for those cases will be May 31st at 1:45 p.m. in front of Judge Verena. If you do post your bond, sir, your next court date is going to be June 28th at 9:30. Also in front of Judge Verena. Do you understand those dates and conditions, sir?
Yes.
All right, you are excused. I think that's it, everyone. Thank you all for your participation this morning. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too, guys. Judge, likewise.
Thank you.